Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached 100, at the time of this filming, 103 subscribers. So I figured I'd do a little 100 subscriber special. Let me introduce you to this. This is my Powermac G5. It's from around 2005-ish, maybe 2004. It's a pretty awesomely built computer. If you've ever get to mess around with one of these, you'll basically attest to the fact that it is built with a very high level of quality, and that's what I wanted for a case. I've always had stamped steel, you know, even if you get like an NZXT case or a Fantex, it's just stamped steel or stamped aluminum. It's thin. It might not be flimsy, but it's just, it doesn't feel like it commands like $100 price tag. Whereas this beast, yeah, you're not there's no way you can look at this and call it cheap. So I figured it would be a good place to start a build. And I bought this to start that build about 2 years ago, back when the GTX 3000 lineup was about to debut. I figured, man, I'd really like to get like a 3060 or 3070 and build a new system, you know, all new parts. And I mean, you can see where we got. We didn't get very far because the video cards became unobtainium. This project just had to sit on the floor down there for quite a while. But I figured now we can start this project. Even if I don't have a system to put into it, we can start it. But I feel like if we just started tearing all the guts out of this right now, it'd kind of be doing a disservice to this thing. Even though it is far from new technology. It is very incapable of doing any kind of modern day tasks. And I think that's mostly due to the architecture of the CPUs. It uses the G5 CPUs, and they're not compatible with really anything today. There's some very smart people out there that have put together modern web browsers for it so that you could get onto the modern internet, but you can't do a whole lot. There are ways to get it onto YouTube, but it really can't play videos. It's just not up to the task for anything. Like I was saying, it would kind of be a disservice if we just started tearing the parts out of this thing without going over it first and checking it out. So let's do just that. First thing you probably noticed while I've been spinning it and touching it and slapping it and stuff like that is the material. It's all aluminum, but it's not thin. It's not, stamped steel or stamped aluminum. Like I said, this is a thick, like that's got to be like 2.5 millimeters. Oh, you know what? 1 second. Let's break out the calipers and see just how thick that is instead of guessing. So here we are. Nearly 3.5 millimeters thick. That is a substantial piece of metal. Around back, you'll notice that we don't really have a standard layout. Your input-output, has no I/O plate. It's just what they've molded or cast into the back of the case. And that's not going to do us much good either. So there's going to have to be some cutting going on back here and some custom parts to be put on here. We got 4 PCI expansion slots, and my idea for this is I don't want to do like a full ATX, 7-slot case, so we're going to stick with the 4. What is that? MATX. And yeah, so it's going to be a little bit of work, but I think it's really going to be worth it because I really like this case. So let's take a peek inside, and then you'll see, like I said, if you've never used this before, it's so over-engineered and substantial. It's this probably weighs like 4 or 5 pounds. That's a big piece of aluminum. So taking a look inside, got this little shield to get rid of. This is pretty much how it came when I got it. It's let me start that over. I haven't done any upgrades to this other than putting another 2 gigs of RAM in it. When I first got this, it only had, well, actually it had 3 gigs of RAM in it, but the computer, it didn't recognize 2 of the sticks. And I believe it's because it was 333 megahertz versus 400. I think this is only compatible with 400 megahertz. So I got another stick, or 2 sticks of 1 gigabyte DDR400, and now it's got 4 gigs. It didn't really help the performance of it though. I mean, it's still awfully slow when you try to do anything modern on it. So I bought this entire thing for, I believe it was 40 bucks. The guy was selling it. He was selling it for parts. He said it didn't work. And I didn't care about the parts inside it. I just wanted the case. So I figured 40 bucks is a heck of a deal for this case. So I got it, brought it home, started looking into the conversion process and lining up parts to buy. And that's when the graphics card market fell out or exploded, I guess you would say. And the 3070 that I wanted was like $1,200, and I'm not going to pay $1,200 for like a $400 or $500 MSRP card. So, like I said, this began sitting, and I started wanting to like tinker around with it and mess with it. So I plugged it in, and everything seemed to be working. I pressed the power button, and it came to life, and everything was fine. So I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to start messing around with this. And about 10 minutes into it, I heard a very loud pop or click or something, very electrical sounding, and the screen froze, and after like 10 seconds it went black, and then the screen came back, and I was like, oh, okay, that's weird. I wonder what that was all about. But then, the mouse was frozen, the screen was frozen, nothing would work. So I tried to turn it off using the power button in the front, and the power button didn't do anything. All I could do was unplug it from the back, and I thought it was totally fried. So gave it a couple of minutes, and then I worked up the courage to plug it back in and turn the power on, and nothing happened. So I thought it was absolutely fried. So I started taking it apart and cleaning it up, and I started with the graphics card, and I don't remember why, but I decided to try and turning the computer on without the graphics card. And it started up. The power button was responsive again, and it booted up. You could hear it chime or bong. And so I took a stab in the dark, and I thought, well, I'll buy a video card for it. And it wasn't expensive. It was like 20 bucks shipped to my door. And I replaced the graphics card with, the same one. I didn't upgrade anything because an upgrade graphics card for this is a ridiculous amount of money. And I don't know why you would upgrade the graphics card, because other than like Unreal Tournament, there's really nothing available for this, for the G5 as far as gaming goes. I mean, there's some things, but nothing that I want to play. So then it sat. Like I said, it works now, and everything's good, and it kind of sat after I was done playing with it. So let's boot it up and check it out, and then maybe we'll start tearing it apart, or maybe we'll wait for another video on that. Either way, it's going to get torn apart. So I'm going to switch this on, and as we saw, there's some pretty hefty fans in it. I think altogether there's 9 fans in this thing to try and keep it cool, because these things had a very difficult time with heat. So, like I said, I think there's 9 fans in here. So we got 2 at the front, 1 up here for your expansion cards. We got 1 here for your hard drives. There is 1 way back up in there that blows air down behind the motherboard. And then there's 2, I think they're exactly the same as these, but behind the CPUs back here. So that is 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there's 7 fans in here. Oh, no. And then there's 2 fans on the power supply tucked away down inside of here. So yeah, there's 9 fans in this thing. So this thing just sitting at the desktop doing nothing and idling will heat up to like 50 degrees, and then the fans kick in and they all go like full bore. It sounds like a damn like a hover craft or something like that, or actually it'll at full tilt it sounds like a big drone or something like that. But anyways, let's boot it up and play with it a little bit. I got a couple of things installed on here, but it doesn't really do anything. You'll see. Okay, we're booted up into, I think it's OS X, let me see here, 10.5.8, dual, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you about that. It's got dual 1.8 gigahertz PowerPC G5s, and of course, like I said, the 4 gigabytes of DDR SD RAM. This doesn't give it, like the 2 extra gigs of RAM really didn't change anything. As far as software that's installed on here, I installed a temperature monitor because the first couple of times I heard this thing like really ramp up, I thought something was wrong. The amount of heat it pumps out of the back of the system is ridiculous. It's off. It's unbelievable. It raises the temperature in the room very quickly. What happened to my... There it is. I don't know why this was missing. Anyways, I like to keep this little window open. So the first thing we can run is Cinebench R10. When I first downloaded this and installed it, or tried to open it, it gives you an error of not being able to find a file or read a file. If you want to run Cinebench R10 on your G5 powered, and like I said, I can only attest to this computer and this G5, but it complains about, I believe it's in resource, res, menu bench, and then C4D shortcuts res. It says it can't open it or it can't read a line. I just went in and I added these. Added these slashes here to comment out these lines of code, and now it opens up, no problem. So let's give it a go. This takes like 6 or 7 minutes to complete, so we'll let it run for a second. I'll fade to black and then fade back in, and you'll get to see the results. Well, that's different. Here we go. And then let's bring, where's my mouse? Let's bring this guy to the foreground. Once this thing really gets heated up and going, the fans go nuts, and I'll get a recording of that. All right, we just finished. Took 6 minutes and 3 seconds. Then we got 2432. Now I didn't know how that kind of correlates to anything. What would a similar Intel setup be of the time? I don't know. About the only thing I have from this time period is my Pentium 4 socket 478. I think it's a 3.2 gigahertz, 1 core, 2 threads. It does hyperthreading, but back then hyperthreading wasn't great. And I believe it gets like an 1100 in this test. So this machine, like I said, for what it is, back in the day, it was a beast. Oh, I can hear the fans ramping up, which is weird because they didn't ramp up during the test. It's getting there. It's ramping up. And it'll do that for a while, and the temperatures will drop back down to like 45-ish, and it'll calm back down, but it kind of repeats the cycle over and over. And like I said, the amount of heat that comes out of the back of the machine is pretty crazy. So yeah, we'll let that sit for a second. Actually, let's do this. Quit. God, listen to this thing. How could anybody get anything done if this thing's just screaming at them all the time? The only other thing I got in here is a optimized version, well, an older version of Minecraft. Quit that. Optimized for the G5. It's optimized for it, but it's not. It's not what I would call playable. Sure, my name will be Steve. So I had to disable many of the transparencies and the sky and stuff like that to get a playable frame rate. What are we sitting at? About 23, 24. It'll level out after things sort of load in, and we'll get around 30. But like you just saw there, we'll get big stutters and slowdowns. So not exactly easy to play. Let's get through that box there. Let's see if we can't get up to a higher vantage point. So you can't really even see anything because I got the chunk size, or the chunk, yeah, is it size? Anyways, I got that turned down so you can play the darn thing. Where we have this render distance tiny, short, let's say short, yeah. So let's give that a go. Oof. I mean, as you can see, it's just to maintain 30, which I wouldn't say this maintains 30 FPS by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not really playable, not in my eyes. See, you can jump. What's up, pig? You done? Are you done spinning? You go in the water. Really? Go in the water. There you go. Anyways, yeah, it doesn't do great. Not exactly playable. I mean, I guess if you had to, if you loved Minecraft and this was the only computer you could play it on, yeah, you could do it, but I wouldn't recommend it. So, real quick, why don't we show off how this thing can do YouTube? Because the internet is mostly YouTube now, that and Facebook. To get on YouTube with this computer, you need a special program. Most people that are familiar with older Macs and stuff like that, older Apple products, will know the 10.4 Fox and then 10.5 Tube. With this, we can run YouTube, but we cannot enjoy YouTube. Look how long this takes. So, real quick. Oh. Yep. Pause, please. I just had to make sure that my screen capture was still recording. It was. So yeah, let's bring up the stats for nerds. In this one, it doesn't give you drop frames, unfortunately. But I mean, you'll probably be blind and see that it's dropping frames.
Okay, welcome back. We're playing around with the budget PC again, and basically, last time we saw
Shush. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. Come on. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Maybe you can't. Maybe you can't do it. Oh God, it can't do it. Ignore. Let's do that again. So we're trying to run this video, and I believe it's at like 360p. It's as low as it'll go, and it's still having a heck of a time with dual 1.8 gigahertz processors, 4 gigs of RAM. The computer you're seeing in the video right now, that budget PC we did, I'll link to that in the description. That can easily play 1080p 60 FPS. You shush with the volume. Okay, yeah, like I said, it is not an enjoyable experience. We're gonna go ahead and quit that. I missed. So yeah, you can see that unless you invest a lot of time and energy and find optimized programs and tweak to your heart's content this system, it's just not. It's not a system that I would say this is so special that I need to preserve it the way it is. I'm going to tear the guts out of it and put a faster computer in it. And I know there's going to be purists out there that'll be hating me for as long as this video is up there, and I do apologize. However, I'm going to, sell off all the guts in here. They all work, and I'm sure that this one computer going down is going to help 5 or 6 computers stay living. So at least that's the plan. So we will commence the teardown. First step is going to be unplugging it. Sorry to do this to you, but no, we're not. Not in this video anyways. I had a lot of fun showing off this old Powermac, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Now, I'm recording this outro a few days after filming this, and I don't know why, but my voice is very scratchy, so I apologize for that. But if you can look past my terrible voice and enjoyed this video, I would very much so appreciate a thumbs up, maybe a subscription, and I would love for you to come back in the next one where we tear this thing apart and start getting it ready for its new parts and pieces that we're going to chuck in there.